All right, in this explainer, we're going to break down what can be a huge, game-changing decision for any business owner, buying a commercial condo. We're going to give you a real step-by-step guide on how to do it right, and maybe more importantly, how to avoid some really costly mistakes.
So, if you're running a business, I'm willing to bet this thought has crossed your mind. Every single month, you write that rent check, and it goes right into building your landlord's wealth. But what if that money could be building your wealth instead? That's the really powerful idea we're digging into today.
So, to make sense of it all, here's our game plan. We'll start with the basics. What even is a commercial condo? Then we'll get into the rules, the governance. After that, we'll arm you with a super important due diligence checklist, teach you how to spot the major red flags, and finally, we'll figure out how to calculate what one of these things is actually worth. Okay, let's start with the big idea, right? Making that leap from being a tenant to becoming an owner. So what exactly are we talking about when we say commercial condo?
Think of it like this. You get the deed to your specific unit, your office, your shop, but you also become a part owner of everything else that holds the building together. We're talking about the hallways, the roof, the parking lot. You and all the other owners are basically in it together.
And this model is incredibly flexible. It could be a slick office space, a retail storefront, a big industrial unit for warehousing, or even a spot in a mixed-use building with apartments upstairs. The point is, there's probably a condo out there that fits exactly what your business needs.
And that brings us right back to the most important point. Every single mortgage payment you make is an investment in your own asset. So instead of your money just vanishing into thin air as rent, it's actually building value in something you own. And that, for any business, is a massive financial shift.
Okay, so owning a condo isn't just about owning the four walls of your unit. It's about joining a community, one that has shared responsibilities and, shared rules. Honestly, it's kind of like joining a business club.
Now, what's really fascinating here is how the power actually shifts. At first, the developer is in complete control. They're the ones who register the property, create the condo corporation, and they even appoint the first board. But once they've sold off enough units, they are legally required to call what's called a turnover meeting. And that's the big moment when you, the owners, finally take control and get to elect your own board to run the show.
And that new board, they govern using two key documents. Just think of the bylaws as the constitution for the entire building. How the board gets elected, things like that. Then you have the rules. These are more like the house rules that affect your day-to-day life, like what kind of sign you can put up or where your customers are allowed to park. Trust me, you need to read both of these very, very carefully.
All right, let's move on to what is, without a doubt, the most critical part of this whole process, your homework. This isn't just about buying property, it's an investigation, and you're the lead detective on this case. So your investigation kicks off with a pile of paperwork. You've got to comb through the rule book, you have to check the financial health, especially that reserve fund for future repairs, but the single most important document, the absolute holy grail of your investigation, is something called the status certificate.
This document is completely non-negotiable. It's basically an official report card on the health of the entire condo corporation. It tells you if the current owner is behind on their fees, if the corporation is being sued, and, this is a big one, if there are any huge, costly special assessments planned down the road. Ignoring this is like buying a used car without even looking under the hood. You just don't do it. Next up, you have to get physical. Go there. Does the unit actually work for your business? Walk the whole property. Are the common areas, like the lobby and parking, well maintained? You need to check the local zoning too. Is your type of business even allowed there? And this is a classic mistake. Don't just assume you can put up any sign you want. Check the rules first, because some restrictions could seriously hurt your visibility and your walk-in traffic.
And listen, you cannot do this alone. This mission requires a team of experts. You're going to need a lawyer to pour over that status certificate, an inspector to check the building's core systems like the HVAC and electrical, and an accountant to really dig into the condo's financial statements. Seriously, skipping this step is just a massive, unnecessary risk. All right, so you've done your investigation, but you also need to know exactly what you're looking for. There can be some hidden monsters on this journey, so let's talk about the red flags. So, what does this big number mean? Well, for most commercial condos, this is exactly how much coverage you get from the Tarion New Home Warranty. That's right, 0. A big goose egg. Unlike with residential units, you are generally on your own if there are construction defects. And believe me, the surprises don't stop there. You need to be aware of something called occupancy costs.
These are fees you pay the developer before the unit is even officially in your name. Developers can also pass on municipal levies for new city services. And then there's the big one, special assessments. If the roof suddenly needs replacing and there's not enough cash in the reserve fund, well, guess what? Every owner gets hit with a massive bill.
And the list of potential deal breakers just keeps going. Unpermitted renovations that messed with the building's structure, that becomes your problem. Environmental contamination, also your problem. Even something as simple as the electrical system not being able to handle your equipment can be a huge headache. And hey, don't forget to check out your neighbors. The last thing you want is to end up in a business war with the company right next door.
So, after you've navigated all of that, we land on the final, most crucial question. How do you figure out what the property is actually worth and if it's a good investment for you and your business?
So, what really drives a condo's value up or down? Well, a key factor pushing that value up is a healthy, well-funded reserve fund, because it means fewer surprise bills for future owners. On the flip side, things like really high maintenance fees, bad parking, or super restrictive rules, those can have a huge negative impact and really drag the value down.
So how do appraisers actually figure it all out? Well, the main method is a direct comparison, just looking at what similar units in the area have sold for recently. But, and this is important, they'll adjust that price based on the financial health of the corporation. And if the condo has restrictive rules that limit the types of businesses allowed, that shrinks the pool of potential buyers, which, you guessed it, can also lower the value.
And this quote from our source material really just sums it up perfectly. At the end of the day, the numbers have to make sense. High monthly fees eat directly into a business's bottom line, and that makes a property way less attractive and therefore less valuable. It's a simple but really powerful truth.
You see, in the end, buying a commercial condo is about so much more than just a physical unit. It's about buying into an entire system. This image really brings it all together. It shows that complex dance between the initial developer, the board of directors that you and the other owners elect, and the condo managers who handle all the day-to-day stuff. Understanding how all these pieces fit together, that's the real key to making a smart investment.
So, there you have it. We've covered the opportunity, the governance, the investigation, and the valuation. You now have the framework to make a really informed decision. The final question, though, is one that only you can answer. Is buying a commercial condo the right move to secure your business's future?